welcome back to the 26th episode of the Triboro Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Alonso, joined by my co-host, Nick O'Brien. How are you doing?
I am doing quite well. Very, very excited to share some exciting news
And
for
thank
us.
you for asking how I was doing.
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
Okay, I was getting to it.
Thanks
Relax.
for asking. But yeah, we haven't been here for a while. Part of the reason why is we were on, I almost said spring break. We were on
Close.
winter break. Not a lot really happened, especially for the Mets, and of course stuff has to happen so we can talk about the Mets. But a lot of stuff did happening, especially for us personally.
Yeah.
So one thing that we started is we're now on the radio.
I know.
So we're on 88.7 WNHU. It's a radio station for our school, but even if you're not in the area, you still can listen to it. There will be a link in the subscription and the description. That's the right word.
There you go.
And pretty much it's us two and our producer. Yeah, producer's the right word. Ian Sachi. He's one of our classmates we've had for a while in sport management. And yeah, one thing note, it's not only baseball. We talk about pretty much every sport on there. Right now, we just did a show. We did our first show on Fridays. It's Fridays from 5 to 6 every day, Eastern time. And we talked about the playoffs. We talked about the Hall of Fame, which we'll
the
kind of
NFL playoffs.
NFL playoffs, yes. We'll touch on the Hall of Fame here too, but we went really in depth, 30 minutes.
Yeah, about half an hour there.
Yeah. So we go really in depth and kind of a lot more broad.
Right.
So there is reason to listen to both.
Yes.
Here we're going to go a lot in detail still. Yankees, Mets, I don't think this is really going to change that much.
No.
But the sports show is a lot more, it covers a lot more areas.
Definitely.
So there definitely is a reason to listen to both of them.
Yeah, because you get all of our fantastic sport takes across all sports now, not just baseball.
You are very good with football.
I love football. I'm very knowledgeable in that aspect.
Very knowledgeable. So I think how, another thing too is I think this is going to be more like a more laid back, more like how we kind of have been doing it, where it's more fun, where that's still going to be fun,
right?
But it's going to be more professional,
right?
Because we cannot say silly words on the air.
No,
that is a no-go.
We can't say egg for some reason.
We cannot say egg.
Very weird rule.
We cannot say fart.
No, but yeah, so I feel like this is going to be a lot more casual. Obviously, you're going to get the best of our personalities on this podcast, but the radio show is, like Justin said, it's going to be more professional, more, I guess, PG.
Yeah,
I guess
PG.
if you want to call it.
Yeah.
But, still check it out. Like Justin said, Fridays from 5 to 6 p.m. we'll be on talking about all things sports, mostly New York, but of course we'll touch on just about, everything, the big headlines, whatever's happening, but yeah, so go check that out. We are on Instagram under Triboro Sports Show, so very similar to our podcast tag, but if you go to our podcast page, you can find it through there as well.
And also in the descriptions of all the episodes, all that stuff.
Correct.
And I'll say this. One question that we had, would you guys want us to make a new Spotify channel for that, where we just upload the live recordings? That's just something we're talking about too.
Yep.
Another thing maybe is if we recorded the podcast live maybe one week, would that be something you guys would listen to live? And then obviously we still would upload it here. Just a couple things were running through our mind. Definitely would appreciate feedback.
Of course.
Has to say about that.
Of course. But yeah, very exciting times. Very exciting.
Very exciting. That's all I got about that.
Yeah, no.
So, before we get into Queens, we did want to mention the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Because I feel it's one of those things where it does both Yankees and Mets. It would kind of be repetitive just to talk about in both.
Yeah.
So, the Hall of Fame. So, to get in the Hall of Fame, you have to have 75% of the ballots. The people that got in this year, we got Adrian Beltre with 95% on his first ballot. Todd Helton with 79% on his sixth ballot. Joe Mauer with 76% on his first ballot. Some notable people that missed: Billy Wagner on his ninth ballot at 73.8%. Gary Sheffield on his last year did not make it. Andrew Jones on his seventh year did not make it. A-Rod on his third year was at 34.8%, didn't make it. Trying to look at who else is important. Andy Pettitte on his 6th year did not make it at 13.5%. David Wright on his first year is still on the ballot because he's above the 5% threshold at 6.2%.
Yippee!
And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all the big names, especially from like New York ties. But I got. Would you like me to start on my thoughts?
Yeah, because I just talked.
Yeah. So I talked this about on the radio. Obviously, I'm happy for everyone that got in. The only question mark for me was Joe Mauer. Not saying he shouldn't have made it to the Hall of Fame, but he's definitely has a different career than the other two. Right. Compared to the other two that got in. I think his peak was obviously one of the best, especially for a catcher.
3 batting titles as a catcher is absurd.
Right. So I think that's what helps him there. But it made me question if maybe the thought process with the writers is changing. Maybe they're looking more at peak rather than longevity. So with that being said, look at David Wright, please. Yeah. I'm very happy he stayed on the ballot, by the way. That. I obviously it's a long shot for him to get in.
I don't think he's gonna make it, but
neither do I.
Good to see.
Definitely, and I definitely think that he deserves to be looked at. But I'm very happy about that.
And then just one guy that I've loved this guy for a while, and it's absurd that he's not in the Hall of Fame is Billy Wagner.
Yep.
Where to put in perspective, he has the 6th most saves of all time. He's played 15 seasons in MLB. He's had 1 season with an ERA, not in the 1 or 2. And granted, that year he got lit up.
Yeah.
But that's still whatever. He has a low 2 ERA for his career. It's a thing of they say, he only has 950 innings. I don't think that matters when he was that dominant for that long.
Right.
And another thing with saves is saves are they're relative to how good your team was.
Yep.
He was on some pretty bad teams. He was
pretty
on the
bad Astros teams,
for a while when they were bad. So I think it's a thing of I just don't see how he's on his 9th year. He's at 74%.
Yeah.
He's gonna get in next year.
Yeah.
I hope unless something horrible comes out about him. But I can't
I can't see him not getting in next year. And I think Ian put it perfectly on the radio show that I think that it's more important to look at how well he did in the innings he's pitched rather than dock him for, not pitching as many innings. Because when he pitched, he was dominant. And as a reliever, you pitch 1 inning, if that, maybe 2.
I'm curious how many pitchers, if any relievers you could say, had that, where every year was 1 or 2s, except for 1 year.
Right.
Because now I'm curious.
Because when you talk about elite closers now, I think, of the decade at least, you're thinking about Jansen, you're thinking about Kimbrel. I don't really think those guys had something like that.
Mm-hmm. The only guy that you can say that did the same thing was Mariano Rivera.
Right.
Granted, Mariano Rivera has a lot more ones.
Yeah.
But still.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not saying Billy Wagner's better than Mo. But to put him on that same level is insane.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't see how he's not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
The fact that it's going to be down to the wire for him is ridiculous.
Insane.
I think the last thing to note is kind of like Gary Sheffield and Rod not getting in.
Right.
I just think that, and we've talked about this before, how when it comes to steroid guys, I view baseball or the Hall of Fame as the history of the sport, and I don't see how you could tell the history without bringing up all the steroid guys. And another good point that Ian made is that they relished the steroid guys. They marketed them as steroid guys in the steroid era.
Right.
So now you're going to knock them when you have how many people in the Hall of Fame that use steroids? Are you going to pluck them out of the Hall of Fame?
Right. You raise them on a pedestal when it happened, but once it wasn't good for you, you toss them to the side. It's a double standard that needs to be corrected.
Exactly.
But that's all I got on the Hall of Fame, at least. Gary Sheffield was robbed.
Yeah.
Close.
They'll probably get in Veterans Committee.
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
Once Bonds and Clement, I think they will end up. I think that will end up getting fixed.
Yeah.
That precedent. It'll be curious to see if anyone that was involved in the steroid era will get in through the regular ballot.
Right. Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Definitely.
See if an A-Rod will.
Right.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Yeah. Would we like to move on?
We can go on to Queens.
All right. I guess we'll see you in Queens.
entering Queens.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Queens. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah. So, not really much going on. Like the rest of the offseason, there hasn't been a lot of movement on the Mets front. There hasn't been a lot of movement on free agency as a whole. But, there's still plenty to talk about with the New York Mets, as always. A lot of discussion about the bullpen, a lot of discussion about DH, sign a DH, internal DH. But I would like to start out with Adam Ottavino. Thank you for signing, so you gave me something to talk about. No. But Adam Ottavino did sign back with the Mets last night on a 1-year, $4.5 million deal for the 2024 season. He opted out of his, I think it was a player option for, I want to say like $675.
6.5, I think.
Yeah, something like that, around that range at the beginning of the offseason. But I believe he said that a lot of deferrals were in that contract. So he's getting
I didn't see that.
Yeah, he's getting a lot more money now, although it's less in total. But I guess, player's choice. They want the money now rather than 10 years down the line. But
I feel like for the Mets, that's better too.
Yeah.
Like for the way that their team is constructed right now, you'd rather pay that money right now than down the road.
Right, just pay it up front, get it over with within the year, and that's it. But a lot of discussion with Ottavino was going on when he opted out. Like, was it a good thing? Was it a bad thing? Because they didn't have a lot of bullpen to begin with, right? Personally, I like bringing Ottavino back. I think he was really good in 2022. He was okay in 2023. But Ottavino is one of those guys, like, Ottavino is a pitcher.
Yeah.
I love hearing him talk about pitching. He knows his...
He's a nerd.
He is, and it's
in
fantastic.
In the best way possible.
Exactly. I absolutely love hearing him talk about pitching. So I'm not worried about, a quote-unquote down year. Because if you look at 2023 as a whole, 3.21 ERA in over 60 innings pitched. For a reliever, you take that. But for Ottavino, he always seemed like to give up a bad hit like every outing. Like he had one of those years. But when he came in, he just gave up like a big hit, or he just gave up the lead, or something like that.
The Ottavino special.
Right. And just to go over some numbers comparatively from 22 to 23, his walks went up. So his walks per 9, 2.2 in 2022. That's a mouthful. And then 4.2 in 2023.
Doubled.
Right. Strikeouts went down, 10.8 Ks per 9 in 2022, 9.0 in 2023. His whip went up from 9.75 in 22 to 1.216 in 23. And in total, he almost doubled his walks in about 2 less innings. I think a lot of that has to do with the pitch clock. You watch Ottavino pitch.
He's very slow.
Exactly. And, he's never had a good run prevention game. I mean, base stealing prevention.
Definitely one of the worst in baseball.
Right. So I think just a combination of the two, because of the limited pickoffs, because of the pitch clock, people were running circles around him. He was getting called for the quote-unquote balks because of the, not balks, automatic ball because of the pitch clock. So I think a lot of that has to do with that. And I think also...
Are they lowering it, or is that just discussion?
No, they are.
They are?
I think it was...
Was it 18 seconds with runners on now?
Something like that. Yeah, so...
Only a couple seconds.
Right.
Which doesn't make sense to me, but...
Neither do I, but that can be a discussion for another day. And then the other thing is, the sweeper, I feel like, was Ottavino's pitch, but now, everyone's throwing it. So hitters are seeing a lot more. Obviously, Ottavino has a different arm slot that's coming out of, but the sweeper is becoming a more common pitch when it used to be Ottavino's pitch.
Yeah.
And so just from a hitter's perspective of seeing a similar pitch over and over, it's going to dwindle the effect that Ottavino's sweeper has on said hitter.
You'd call that a sweeper?
He calls it a sweeper.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I always saw it as kind of like how Kluber was, where Kluber, like, it's called a clue ball,
Right.
where it's, like, unique to him. Like,
Yeah.
no one throws a pitch like that other than him. That's
Right.
how I always saw it, but if he
Yeah.
calls it a sweeper, then...
Right. I think it probably is different in some aspect, but if you look at, the horizontal break and the vertical break and all the real nitty-gritty numbers, at the end of the
Nerdy
day,
shit.
yeah, at the end of the day, it's a sweeper.
Yeah.
Because it's just a very horizontal slider. And if you watch Ottavino, obviously he comes really down from the right side and it sweeps across to the left side of the batter's box. So I think that's definitely something, not necessarily to keep an eye on, but something that hurt him in 23. And he also lost some velo. He lost like a mile or two on his fastball. He's 38.
Yeah.
But again, at the end of the day, he's a pitcher. He's going to work on what he needs to work on, and I'm not necessarily worried about it. But with that being said, given his age and given how he pitched last year, I would like to see him more in a seventh inning role rather than eighth or like ninth guy when Diaz is resting. So basically, a little less leveragey, especially because of the runners and all that. But I'm still very happy that he's back. It's also nice just to have somebody on the team who wants to be here. Because he opted out because he was unsure where the team was going. Which, at the time, I don't think they hired Stearns yet. They just fired Showalter. So they didn't have a manager, didn't have a GM, didn't have a president of baseball ops. They just traded Max Scherzer. They just traded Verlander. There was a lot of uncertainty around the team. And I don't blame him for opting out.
Especially at that age.
Definitely. He probably wants to win a ring. And look, the Mets right now aren't in a good position whatsoever.
He's gone on the deadline.
Most
likely gone on the deadline.
Yeah, definitely. But, again, it's just nice to have people who want to be on the team. So that's just another thing. But, yeah. What do you think?
I definitely agree with what you said about lowering him and the leverage, because that was the thing with the Yankees too, especially towards like the end of his career with them, where it was just big hit after big hit. Even in Boston, I remember there was like 2 or 3 like leads that he blew to the Yankees.
Right.
And just I don't think he's that guy anymore. And like you'll see it with some guys that they just lose that intensity. They just don't have it anymore.
Right. Yeah. And that's just a thing that comes with age.
Yeah.
That's
you don't have that fire anymore. Like
Right. And again, he's 38,
Yeah.
But hey, he's a pitcher. He's gonna pitch. But moving on from Ottavino, more about the bullpen in general. As of right now, you have a lot of, I don't want to say reclamation projects, but a lot of waiver guys, a lot of minor league deal guys fitting in that back end. Because obviously now you have Diaz, you have Brooks Raley, you have Ottavino, and you do have Drew Smith, which a lot of Mets fans might not like to hear. I'm still a big fan of Drew Smith. I think he can still put it together. He just needs to have a good second pitch. He has a good fastball, but literally anything else he throws is abysmal. He just needs to find a pitch that complements that fastball really well, and I think he could be a really good reliever. But after those 4, you have Jorge Lopez, who had a really good 2022 and a really bad 2023. That's just relievers. But then you have guys like Phil Bickford, Sean Reed-Foley. Then you have options like Bryce Montes de Oca and Nate Lavender and things of that nature. You have a lot of options to choose from, but you don't have a necessarily set bullpen. With that being said, there's still some options out in the market. Obviously, I think besides Josh Hader, I think the biggest reliever is probably Robert Stevenson. Would you say?
Yeah.
Right? And he got three year, $33 million.
Yeah, way
from the Angels.
Paid, yeah. Even
I'm okay.
Hector Neris, what do you get again? You got like what, 222 with like an option for like 14, 15 mil for the 3rd year.
I think it was 1 year. I think like 1 year, $9 million, and then like option or something for like 11. It was a really.
I think it was more than 11.
Yeah,
I think it was like 14.
Something like that. It was a weird, like 1 year contract.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, he got $9 million for this year coming up. I'm pretty sure. So I understand the Mets didn't really want to go to that high tier reliever, which would obviously mean a higher AAV. So obviously you get Ottavino for 4.5. You're not paying Stevenson 11. You're not paying Nearest 9. But I think they should add another lefty. Again, the only lefty in the bullpen right now is Brooks Raley. You have Nate Lavender, I believe is his name, in the minors right now. He's a lefty. He had a really good year.
I can't take a guy serious whose last name's a Son. I'm sorry, I can't.
But he had a really good year last year. So I think he's definitely going to play some type of role in this upcoming year. But just some options to look into. I'll start with the Yankees option, Wandy Peralta. I think you can probably talk more about him than me. So
I just don't think he would go to the Mets.
Mm-hmm.
I think not because Mets different what's it called, because he's a Yankee guy. No, I just think that he's the type of guy that he wants to win. So I don't think he would go to the Mets. But if he does, he's a guy you're gonna love. He has one of the lowest ground ball rates in the league, so he's not gonna give up home runs, and he's just a fighter. I don't know what it is, but when there's runners on, he's better.
Right.
You could throw him on with bases loaded, and he may give up some BS 1 run, but he's gonna fight, and I love Wandy. He just has that energy that you can't coach.
Yeah.
I love that guy.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think he would probably be my first left-handed option. But another guy that I wanted to mention was Jake Diekman. He had a weird year. I want to say he got traded.
Weird career.
Yeah, really. I think he got traded to the Rays midway through last season. And, of course, he was pretty good. So, obviously, there's some risk to that whenever the Rays get a guy who was bad and now he's good. And now you want to sign him. But I think Jake Diekman could be a good 1-year deal type guy. And then you don't really need another right-handed pitcher, but I think the top option for the Mets right now would be Ryan Stanek, who was on the Astros for a few years now.
Yeah.
He was their eighth, seventh inning guy with Ryan Presley closing. But he had a rough year last year, a 4.09 ERA in 50 innings. But just like relievers do, the year before that, a 1.15 in 55 innings pitched.
Yeah.
So relievers are always just going to be volatile like that. So you never really know what you're going to get until you get them.
Relievers are like a box of chocolates.
Indeed. Thank you, Forrest. But
that was the worst Forrest Gump impression maybe of all time.
That was really bad.
That was horrible.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. That was horrendous.
But he's a fastball slider guy, and I think for a Mets bullpen that doesn't have a lot of quote-unquote flamethrowers, you have Diaz. Drew Smith can kind of get up there. I think he's 96, 97.
Which is not really a flamethrower in today's game.
Right. So there's not really a lot of high velocity coming out of that bullpen. And I think it's just good to have different looks out of the bullpen. Obviously, you have Ottavino, who's going to be a more breaking ball, off-speed guy. Diaz is going to bring the heat. Raley is more of a finesse pitcher. And then Drew Smith, again, 96, 97. So, average fastball. But Ryan Stanek, I think, would be a good fit just to push up that floor of the bullpen, I would think. But they have shown interest in Stanek and Wandy.
So much more fun to say.
I know. But besides that, I think the Mets are more so interested in going with their in-house options. Obviously, they have their pitching lab, which they
quote unquote.
Yeah, I think it's in Port St. Lucie in Florida that a lot of guys have been checking out. And I think it was last night, an article came out from the New York Post by Mike Puma talking about the pitching lab and talking about the guys who've gone there. And a very interesting thing is that Tyler McGill has been turning a lot of heads with his improvement on his split finger fastball, I think is what they're calling it. I remember near the end of the year last year, he was joking around because, you have Senga's ghost fork.
Yeah.
And I think he called it the American spork or something like that. So something weird like that. But I saw McGill more as a bullpen guy, and I still think he might fit better there. But if he's making progress in this pitching lab and he can actually show something as pitching depth, I will be more than pleased because he has shown flashes of elite stuff, really,
Yeah.
really good stretches of pitching. And I think it was 2022. He started opening day, and I think like that first month or so, he was really good. I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I will wait for Justin
Nah, keep talking.
to get them. But no, McGill definitely has the stuff. He obviously drew a lot of, excuse me, a lot of DeGrom comparisons, which are just
Dumb.
insane. But just because of the way he throws and his velo and his fastball just gaining more life and more velocity as time went on. But what are you laughing at?
March / April in 28 innings pitched, a 1.93 ERA.
Yeah.
In May, 14.85 ERA.
Yeah. See, and there you go. There's the stretches of excellence, and then
he gave up
really
double
bad.
the amount of runs.
Yeah. Yeah.
In
That
6.2 innings, he gave up double the amount of runs that he let up in 28 innings.
Yeah. That was rough. But again, yeah, what was that first March, April?
193 ERA in 28 innings.
Right. That's pretty decent run where he showed flashes of really good stuff.
No other month he had less than a 6 ERA.
Right. So I still think long term he might fit the bullpen more, but hey, if the pitching lab is doing its thing and he's improving on something, I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah. And it's like another interesting nugget to mention. Last year in March / April, 3.96 ERA in 25 innings, which is serviceable. And then in September / October, 2.76 ERA in 29 innings.
Yeah, and I think that's when he started fitting in his American spork, whatever he called it. So if that becomes a really good pitch, which a lot of guys...
You see what Jolly Olive tweeted?
No.
He said, ready for year 3 of Tyler McGill to hurt me.
Honestly, though. He's so real for that. But before I move on for the bullpen, any thoughts, concerns?
I'll get more into it in the Bronx, but bullpen is just one of those things of you really don't have to pay guys.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of numbers that I have that will kind of get into that, but yeah.
Yeah.
You can really just we've had this talk for a while.
Yeah.
But,
if you're gonna go cheap on a position, it's gonna be relievers.
Yeah.
Because you can just get a guy off the street.
They're so volatile.
Right. Grab a guy off the street, teach him how to throw a fastball, teach him how to throw a sweeper, and he's the best reliever.
Yeah.
But besides bullpen, I'm going to move on to the DH talk. So as of right now...
I'm going to cut you off.
Okay.
Because there's two things that I have that I kind of teased that I have.
Yeah.
So let me just... No, I'll say this first. So in 2023...
Yep.
Do you know what Pete Alonso's BABIP was?
Very low.
205.
Yeah.
That was not just the lowest in baseball this year. It was the lowest for a qualified hitter in a full season over the last 13 years.
That's insane.
MLB average is 300.
It was average 300 BABIP?
MLB average is 300.
Wow.
He was 100 points lower than average.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's the thing of that just shows he got unlucky. That's no fault to his own. That just shows he got significantly unlucky.
Yeah, I remember there was a couple times during the year where he was just, smacking the shit out of the ball.
Yeah.
But it was just finding a glove, And that, obviously that's just baseball, but...
That much is
that's
absurd.
insane.
Over the last 13 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. I think it probably is a little skewed because of his injury and things like that. But, yeah, I think that's a good-ish outlook for the future. Because I think he did all the right things. He hit the ball hard. He hit the ball in the air. He still ran into 45 home runs. So... I think that just goes to show that Pete isn't just a slugger,
He's not.
Pete's a really good hitter, and you should extend him, please. Please, please, please,
I
please,
love
please,
how
please.
Fangraphs, like, I'm trying to find BABIP, but I can't find it. Here it is. Let me get, please tell me, why does it not have a year-to-year thing? That's just dumb. Yeah, that's just dumb. I don't know why it doesn't have it. But in his career, we're just going to have to go this way because Fangraphs wants to be dumb. But at home, he has a 243 BABIP, 274 on the road for his career. Mush those numbers together and average them out because I don't know how to do that because Fangraphs is being dumb. But that just shows significantly higher for his career.
Right. And I think that's more important to look at rather than league average is a guy's career average. And still looking at his career average, it was still a lot lower in 23 than his career. So again, I think there's just a lot left in the tank for Pete and extend him.
I found it.
Yay.
Okay. So starting in 2019, going to 2023.
Okay.
280, 242, 274, 279, 205.
Right. So he's hovering around the 270s.
Yeah.
So for his career,
2020 was the lowest before that.
Right.
So that's
right. And 60 games.
Yeah.
Take it for what you will. But yeah, I think he just ran into some poor batted ball luck, really. But yeah.
Yeah.
Is that the only nugget you had to share?
I have another one, but I could do it now or I could wait.
It's your nugget.
It's my nugget.
You can do what you want with your nugget.
Francisco Lindor.
Okay.
You may have seen this.
Perhaps.
Has the third most F4 by a shortstop through age 29 since the integration era.
Third most?
Third highest through age 29 since the integration era.
Francisco Lindor is a very good ball player.
I saw that and that shocked me. I did not realize how much people take him for granted.
Yes. Mets fans, you're watching a guy in a Hall of Fame track.
Yes. You're watching two, probably. I think you can make an argument for Alonso with how many home runs he's hit in his career so far.
Perhaps, maybe.
Because how old is he?
He's like, I think 30 almost. He's going to be 30.
Really?
Yeah. Or 29, something like that.
29.
Yeah.
He just turned 29.
He just turned 29, so he's 29.
Mm.
So, and, for a slugger, look at Nelson Cruz. Pete can still have, 10 years in the tank.
Yeah. And he's also a bigger lad, and they typically, he's bigger in the sense of not muscle.
Yes.
And I feel like they typically have longer careers because their bodies don't break down as much.
Big Papi.
Yeah.
I mean, look at him, yeah.
He has 192 home runs through how many years? Was it 4 or 5? 5 years.
5 with one being
The
60
COVID
games.
year.
Yeah. That maybe might hurt him in the long run, but if he has a very long career, you could just brush that to the side.
Everyone has one of those years.
Yeah.
So it's like...
But, no, Lindor is a very good shortstop. He's a very good baseball player, and I'm very glad he's on my team.
I would be, too.
But... thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
That makes me very happy.
I knew it would.
But moving on from Justin's Nuggets.
You're welcome, Mets fans.
DH talk. So obviously, there's still a lot of guys on the market. Jock Peterson just came off the market going to the Diamondbacks.
Oh, yeah.
I think he might have fit the best role, seeing what the Mets... if you wanted to give Mark Vientos some at-bats, you could have platooned them.
Okay, yeah, fair.
But besides that, J.D. Martinez still out there. Justin Turner still out there. The big fish, Jorge Soler, is still out there.
I see what you did there.
You get it? Because he was on the...
Marlins.
He was on the fish team.
Where was he in 2015?
Cubs? Something like that? I don't know. Where was he in 2015?
I'll give you a hint. The Royals. He won a ring with them.
He was on the team in 2015?
I'm 95% sure. I'm pretty sure I saw some of that shot. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, he's a 2-time World Series winner. He came up in 2014.
Huh. I had no idea he was on the Royals at that point.
Yeah. Wait. What? No, he was on the Cubs.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Oh no, he won a ring with the Cubs.
Okay,
I'm
that's what I
stupid.
thought. Okay.
I thought he won a ring with the Royals. Never mind.
No.
He's Cuban. I love him.
Anyways,
I'm dumb.
yes, correct. And then you have Mark Vientos as your internal option, obviously. And I guess you could throw in DJ Stewart, but I don't want to give him too much run, so I'm not really going to include him in this talk. So I'm going to go over some projections, because that's fun, right?
Ugh.
So Fangraph Steamer projections, I think, came out earlier this week. And I just want to get your opinion on this, right?
For who?
Everybody.
Everyone.
I'm going to give you some numbers. So starting off with Jorge Soler, he's projected 1.9 WAR with a 119 WRC plus, 34 home runs. JD Martinez, 0.5 WAR, 107 WRC plus, 23 home runs. Justin Turner, 0.7 WAR, 105 WRC plus, 16 home runs. Mark Vientos, 0.8 WAR, 108 WRC plus, 15 home runs. Thoughts?
I think and this is kind of where I was for a while, that you either get Jorge Soler, who I think has, I don't want to say upside, but is the most safe bet out of the three, or you just let Vientos say, hey, have fun, you're a kid, show us what you got, or
Right.
bye-bye.
Right.
I think that's what I would want as a Mets fan, especially because you're most likely not doing anything this year. I would want to see Vientos play. I would want to see him to play as much as possible.
Yeah. You took the words right out of my mouth. That's exactly where I was going for this. If you are not signing Jorge Soler, you let Mark Vientos run with that DH spot. Because 15 home runs, I think that's extremely conservative.
I do too.
I think Vientos can run into 20, 25
I think it's
home
more
runs.
likely that he has a lower OPS plus or WRC plus. It was WRC plus.
WRC plus,
I think it's much more likely that he has a lot lower that, but a lot more home runs.
Right. He could be hovering 100, but 20, 25 home runs. And, looking at, obviously projections aren't everything, but, JD Martinez is older, Justin Turner is older.
And they're also I feel like they're very conservative with the kids.
Yeah.
Because they haven't proven it, so
Yeah.
prove it.
Right. I think there's a lot more upside in Vientos.
I agree.
But JD Martinez is not going to play a defensive position. He is going to not necessarily clog up the DH spot, but
he's going to clog
up the DH spot. Justin Turner can probably stand at third base, but I think these Vientos and Turner are almost the same player. They're not great defensively. They're projected about the same offensive production. And again, I think Vientos has more upside.
And you're not going to have to pay Vientos.
Right, you're paying Vientos $750K instead of Turner $10 million.
Yeah.
Call it. I think that's a little low with the market, but whatever.
10 to 15, we'll call it.
Right. And then Jorge Soler, who is primarily DH, but he can play the outfield. He had the best defensive game of his life against the Mets in the second game of the season, where he basically beat the Mets on his own. But yeah, Jorge Soler can play the outfield. And I think another thing that Mets fans and Mets should consider is Starling Marte is on the wrong side of 30. I forgot who wrote it and where it was, but there's an article coming out saying that the Mets want to rotate Marte in the DH spot. Obviously, he doesn't profile as a DH, but just to give him that rest.
Get him off his feet.
Right.
Especially with all the core injuries he's had the last couple of years.
Yeah, it was core, it was groin, it's lower half, lower 50, 60%,
your
whatever.
groin is in your core, but your core is your knees to your abs.
I'm not a mathematician. It's okay.
I'm a taxidermist. What?
Listen, that's for dentists, all right? But
that's for astronauts.
If you sign Martinez or you sign a Turner, you're necessarily clogging up that DH spot.
Yeah.
You cannot really rotate out.
You cannot. They're either DHing or they're on the bench.
Right.
There's no in between.
Right. So Jorge Soler gives the most flexibility. So if you're not signing Soler, Mark Vientos is your DH, and you just let him run.
Because another thing with that too is we're talking about the bat having upside. Also, or I'm saying like because he's young.
Yeah.
You never know if he just gets better defensively.
Just
that
figures it out.
A good amount of times where guys just figure it out defensively.
Right.
Whether it be a coach, there's one like fatal flaw they had for a while that they end up fixing, and then they're an average defender, and that's if he's an average defender, you are over the moon with that.
Exactly. He's shown flashes of really good plays, and then he's shown flashes of really bad plays. The other thing is, Brett Beatty is probably going to be your third base going into the year. So, you have that competition in spring training between Beatty and Vientos, probably leaning Beatty. And then, Vientos can act as your backup first baseman. You want to DH Alonso, all right, you play Vientos at first.
I think that, sorry for cutting you off, but I think the more that we talk about it, it makes a lot more sense not to sign someone.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, think about it this way, you want to give Marte a day off, or you want to put him in the DH spot, give him a half day off. You put Beatty in the outfield, you put Vientos at third. You want to, what?
Beatty in the outfield?
I mean, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
You want to give Pete Alonso a half day off, put him at DH, put Vientos at first.
Right.
You want to have everyone playing, Vientos at DH.
Right.
I think that it's one of those things where it makes a lot of sense not to sign anyone.
Yeah. It provides the most flexibility, I think. Because, again, going off that, there's a really tough lefty on the mound. Sit Beatty at third. Sit Beatty, put Vientos at third.
Exactly.
There's a lot more to go around with not signing somebody. So if you are going to sign somebody, you need to have not necessarily a sure thing, but you want a guy like Soler who's going to run into 30 homers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would be more than okay not signing anyone. I think Vientos deserves that look, and that's what the Mets are going for this year. Whether you like it or not, they need a lot of things to break right for them. You need guys to bounce back. You need guys to have good years. You need the kids to show something.
Mm-hmm.
And besides just giving Vientos playing time and the flexibility all around.
Sorry to cut you off, but even Canna, they may play him at DH a little bit just to give him some time. Am I dumb?
Yeah.
I meant to say Nimmo.
I
don't know why I said Canna. I meant to say Nimmo.
Yeah. Okay. Sure, you did.
Because before Nimmo really had that year where he was healthy and kind of solidified himself, I always confused the two. No, but Nimmo too.
Yeah.
You don't want to just be throwing him in center field every day. That's why you signed Harrison Bader.
Correct.
So.
And he did play DH. He was at DH a few times last year. So again, it just leaves the DH spot open.
Yeah.
And again, Soler can stand in the outfield, so I think you still do have some of that flexibility. But obviously, you're playing Soler every day.
Your fifth outfielder? I'm not saying he would be number 5.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he'd be your fifth on the roster.
Probably fifth, fourth. You toss up between Tyrone Taylor and Soler, but whatever. But again, it opens a lot more flexibility, and it gives some spots to maybe future call-ups for a Drew Gilbert or a Luis Angel Acuna. Having guys that aren't under contract, having guys you can move around is helpful. So you're not necessarily stuck with that 26-man roster. So I think overall, not signing a pure DH just opens for a lot more possibilities.
Yeah.
But that's all I got.
Don't got much
Any
more.
Closing notes for the New York Mets?
That bit balls play.
Hit ball hard, sometimes ball find glove.
Other time, ball go
far.
Gap.
Or out of stadium.
Or out. Make out.
Make out.
Whoa.
Come on, Justin, this is a kid show.
No, that's not. That's a radio show. The radio show is a kid show.
But yeah, that's all I got. The Mets are in a very interesting spot.
WNHU.
Fridays, 5 to 6 p.m. But yeah, that's all I got. Mets are a very interesting spot. But without further ado,
let's go into the Bronx.
Now entering the Bronx.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Bronx, where we have had a lot more things go on because we are the better team. So, let's just start off with Marcus Stroman. The Yankees signed Marcus Stroman to a 2-year, $37 million deal with a vesting option for a third year if he were to pitch 140 innings in 2025. What is your opinion on the move?
Now, let me preface this. Stroman is a good pitcher. He was a good pitcher on the Mets. I liked his time on the Mets. Marcus Stroman also talks a lot.
He has a mouth.
He has a mouth, and he does not like to shut it. He likes to keep it open, for better, for worse.
He also has fingers that he uses to
type a lot.
A lot.
And he has his fingers click the block button a lot. With that being said, I like it. I like it for the Yankees. Hopefully, I don't want to say issues, but his off-field shenanigans kind of dies down a little. Obviously, in New York, a lot of things are magnified. But for better for worse, Marcus Stroman he has like that it factor. Like when he's on the mound, he's the guy.
Yeah.
And he's going to, trust me, he will make it known that he's the guy for that day. So I think it's good to have that passion. And I don't think, besides maybe Rodon, when he's healthy, you don't have like that guy who's like, screaming off the mound after big. I don't see Cole doing that a whole lot.
Yeah, he does.
Does he?
He does.
I've seen that really with Astros.
No, he still does.
Okay.
More so in the bigger moments, but
yeah,
he does.
But I think from a day in, day out perspective, Stroman does that a lot more than say Cole or Rodon or whatever. But again, in Yankee Stadium, having a ground ball pitcher is always a good thing.
Yes.
So I like the move for the Yankees.
Yes. And there is one thing to note. A lot of people are talking about his numbers at Yankee Stadium. Just going to give you a game log numbers before signing with the Yankees. 4 innings pitched, 4 hits, 3 earned runs. 1 inning pitched, 4 runs. 6 innings pitched, 6 earned runs. 6 innings pitched, 6 earned runs. 6 innings pitched, 3 earned runs. So not good.
Right.
Wait. That's not Marcus Stroman. That's CC Sabathia.
Oh, you pulled a quickie on me.
I pulled a quickie
on
you.
I like that.
Yeah. That was a tweet from Tom Kusensky. I think that's how you pronounce his name. But
Thanks, Tom. That was really good.
You like that?
I like that a lot.
You like that?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
He's a much different pitcher. Most of those numbers were with the Blue Jays.
Right.
Which was a while ago. He also was facing pretty good Yankee teams.
I was just going to say that. You have to remember, Stroman's not pitching against the Yankees at Yankee Stadium anymore.
Not. And just to add to the ground ball rate, 57.4 ground ball rate, which is in the 95th percentile. That high of a ground ball rate as a starter, that's insane.
Yeah.
47% sinker usage.
Wow.
47%.
Holy crap.
He loves his sinker. And let me tell you, you know who else loves sinker ball pitchers? Matthew Blake. Marcus Stroman, welcome to the Matt Blake pitching lab.
60% sinker next year.
Exactly. And one thing to note is some people will talk about how he didn't have that, overall his numbers weren't that impressive in 2023. He had a 3.95 ERA in 136 innings. But you look at his second half splits.
Yeah.
First half in 112 innings, he had a 2.96 ERA. Second half, 24 innings pitched, 8.63.
Until he got hurt, he was in the Cy Young conversation.
Exactly. He had, and the injury that you mentioned is he had a rib cartilage injury, which everything that I've seen is that it's not going to be like a chronic, it's not going to be something that's going to be bothering him in the future. So you're getting a great guy, and I believe it was Ken Rosenthal that said it, that he said this was an alarming value. Like a crazy bargain, one of the best of the offseason.
Right.
So you're Lucas Giolito is getting paid the same amount of money. He gave up 42 home runs last year.
Yeah. I mean, for Giolito, the only thing I will say, I think he provides some more upside.
Yeah.
But again, it goes to show the market.
I disagree. Maybe innings, but I don't think numbers wise.
Agree to disagree, but not to go too deep into it. But yeah, I think good value for Stroman. That sinker ball usage is definitely going to jump, I would say.
That's like all I got on Stroman. I want to
Yeah.
keep it kind of concise because I do have like a good amount of things that I do want to talk about.
Yep.
Do you have anything else you want to add?
Just stop talking,
Yeah.
Stroman. It's okay.
Yeah. I think being with like Judge, being with Cole, I
Right.
think that those are things that are gonna help.
Right.
But then going into another starter, Carlos Rodon is skinny.
Skinny.
Have you seen that?
I think I've seen like a picture or two.
I will post a picture on the screen, but
Yep.
Carlos Rodon is now officially skinny. I think that's a great sign because it's showing that he's taking a lot of control about his body.
Yeah.
And Giancarlo Stanton, same thing with him. You
Yeah,
can tell he's slimmed
He's
down.
slimmed down a lot.
I think that's very good for both those guys.
Yeah.
Because that just shows they're taking control of their bodies, taking it more seriously. And yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty huge. Obviously, you might question, slimming down. Do you lose, like for Stan, do you lose some power there?
I don't
Maybe,
care. Do it.
Yeah. For Rodon, do you maybe lose, I don't know. For Rodon, I don't really think it's that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But for Stanton, maybe, you lose like 5 home runs,
So,
whatever. If you
you
stay
lose
healthy,
5 home runs and you add 30 games,
you take that.
Yeah.
100%.
because
Yeah,
you'll probably
definitely.
make up those 5 home runs in the 30 games you missed.
Right.
And also, if you also are telling me he could play the outfield because he's a lot more lean, that frees up that DH spot.
Yeah.
That is so good to be able to rotate Judge in the DH spot
Yeah.
just because you want to keep him off his feet. You don't want him to play as much.
Right.
Or you don't want him to play in the field, as
yeah.
much just because you don't want...
You don't want him running into a concrete wall again.
Exactly. So I think that's
huge.
That's something I've been saying for a while, the Yankees. I said yoga, but this works.
This works.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Good stuff. Good
Yeah.
stuff.
And then another thing to note is arbitration did happen. One of us forgot to mention arbitration happened, so I just wanted to show I'm more prepared.
I'm sorry that I didn't mention that Phil Bickford is going to arbitration. My bad.
No one for the Yankees went to arbitration because we like our players.
It's Phil Bickford.
Yeah.
Big Dick Bick.
How do you think Phil feels?
Phil, if you're listening, buddy, you're a good pitcher.
Yeah.
I like you a lot.
How do you think Phil feels?
Just settle.
You're invalidating Phil's feelings.
I'm not.
Anyways, so
If Phil has a problem, he could come to me.
This is a tweet from Bob Nightingale. So the Yankees, they settled all their guys on arbitration. Soto, $31 million. Gleyber Torres, $14.5. Verdugo, 8.7. Clay Holmes, 6. Grisham, 5.5. Nestor, 3.95. Lou Trevino, I'm pretty sure that they just cut. I could be wrong. But 2.73. Jonathan Loaiza got 2.5. Clark Schmidt, $2 million. And it's Luis Gonzalez, the guy they traded for, right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Sure.
Gonzalez settled for 860. Yeah, 860,000. I almost said million. Yeah. So, thank God, don't have to deal with that headache.
Yay.
I think that's great, especially for a guy like Soto. You just give him the money.
Yeah.
Because those also hurt with contract negotiations
Right.
and
Just
stuff like
look
that.
at Corbin Burns and the Brewers. That's the one example I always go to with how arbitration can go wrong. But yeah,
It's just
it's a headache that's not necessary.
that happened with CC, or not CC. That happened with Severino. That happened with Dylan Betanzas.
That
Yeah.
legend.
Thank God, don't have to deal with that anymore.
Yep.
And then moving on to I'll talk about this one now. So Josh Hader, he signed a 5-year, $95 million deal with the with the Astros. Padres don't have money. And yeah, I'm curious your opinions on that move because that is a direct thing that affects the Yankees.
Yeah. I think it's interesting because they do have Presley, who is a very good closer in his own right. Obviously, Josh Hader is a step above him. So it's interesting. I don't exactly see the fit. I'm pretty sure Presley's a free agent after this year, so that's probably what they're looking at. But look, good for the Astros. They got the best, one of the best closers in the game right
Probably
now.
best
So
left-handed.
definitely best left-handed.
Best left-handed.
But yeah, definitely a little confused on my part. But hey, he's one of those star players that you kind of move things to get on your team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I get it at the end of the day, but definitely interesting. Definitely.
Yeah. Just some numbers that I wanted to mention.
Yep.
So
I know
this
without
is a
going.
tweet from Yankees Files. Current Yankees OPS against Josh Hader. I want you to guess what judges.
210.
5,000.
Wow.
Soto.
300.
1,000.
Okay.
And keep in mind that also includes the wild card game. Back
The
in
wild card
2018.
game. Thank you, Trent Grisham.
And then Anthony Rizzo 938.
Oh, lefty. Look at that.
Well, Rizzo is reverse splits.
Right. Fair enough.
But yeah,
Interesting. How many at bats does Judge have
I'm
against
pretty sure it's
Hader?
one, and it was a home run. Yeah.
Okay, that's what that's what I just wanted to make
Nope,
sure.
5,000. Don't care. No, yeah, but that's good.
Nice.
And it's weird because the Astros don't spend money.
Yeah.
But they're committing 10% of their payroll to a reliever.
Right. Definitely
that's-
interesting when you have, Bregman is a free agent after this
Altuve's
year.
a free agent.
Kyle Tucker is getting there. I think it's like two more years. Did they extend Jordan?
Yeah.
They did. Okay.
It's like 6/120, I think.
Yeah, okay, so they did. But yeah, you have guys that I feel like you could have spread the money towards, but hey, do what you want.
They also what's it called? The Astros last year went to arbitration with Tucker and he lost it.
Yeah, I
So that could be something interesting.
Kyle Tucker, you are a New York Met.
Yeah, he has this year and then one more year. So
Tucker?
2 more years.
Tucker,
yeah.
yeah.
So that
Yeah.
could be interesting how that affects that
Definitely.
relationship.
And I think Valdez is one or 2 years away, I think.
I can look that up right now.
Jose Urquidy? I think
He's old.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Point being,
Like a spell contract.
yeah. Point being, there's definitely other places they could have spent
This year and one more year for Valdez.
Yeah, so 2 years. Yeah, so there's definitely ways they could have spent that money elsewhere, but listen, if Kyle Tucker and Framber Valdez are on the market, so be it.
Yeah. We love Spot Rack, by the way.
Yes.
That is mucho bueno. Very nice.
Very, very nice.
And just to kind of segue this into the Yankees, kind of like their bullpen overall, as much as I would love Josh Hader, they didn't need him.
Yeah.
Like, they just didn't need him. Like, I can't remember if I talked about this on the podcast. I think I may have. But pitching coaches, in my opinion, have the most effect on the bullpen compared to the starters. Because the starters, you're kind of locked in. You may have 10 guys total between the majors and the minors. Unless you make, like, a trade or whatever.
Right.
You really only have those guys.
Yeah.
Relievers, you're some random guy I met at, like, a bar? You want to sign with the Yankees?
Yeah, exactly.
And how the Yankees made, oh my God, what was his first name? The ginger that was 6'8" that played for the Yankees, then went to the Mets. Ridings, what was his first name?
Steven.
Steven Ridings was, like, one of the best relievers in baseball for a month, and then you've never heard of him since.
Right.
And he was a substitute teacher 3 months before it happened.
That just goes to show the volatility of relievers.
Exactly.
Like we talked about the Mets. If you're gonna go cheap on something, it's gonna be relievers.
Yeah. And to put it in perspective, the Yankees are the most amount of money they're spending on a reliever is $6 million this year on Clay Holmes, which is arbitration, so it's kind of had to. It's not like you could have said no, we don't want to pay you $6 million.
Right.
With the second one, I think it's 5.5 to Canley.
Yeah.
Number 1 ERA in baseball.
Right.
For the pen. So that's
Yeah, I think the Yankees were talking to Neris, right?
They were talking to Neris,
and again, he got $9 million for this year, and Clay Holmes is making $6 million. So it just goes to show their philosophy on it, and I don't blame them not wanting to spend.
I don't either.
When they're just cooking relievers out of the oven.
And I think that another thing that kind of went into is Chapman, just how bad the end of that contract was.
Yeah.
So I think that definitely has something to do with it.
Yeah, a little more adverse to giving out that long-term contract.
Because unless you're like an Edwin Diaz, obviously a Josh Hader, a Mariano Rivera, you don't give them, and obviously I'm not lumping theirs. I'm just saying like
Right.
elite top of the game closers. You shouldn't give out that much money.
Absolutely not. No. Yeah, Diaz and Hader were definitely special circumstances.
They're very special. Chapman, when he got it, get another one, special circumstances. I also think that I'll finish talking about the bullpen before we go into free agent guys. Ian Hamilton was paid the league minimum last year, 9th lowest ERA amongst relievers in the AL with a 57% ground ball percentage. They signed him off the street.
Yeah. Just goes to show you don't need to spend big on relievers.
Exactly. But getting into kind of like free agent guys, I think that they still do want to add one more guy. From what I've seen, they've been in contact with Kenyon Middleton and Wandy Peralta. Who do you think would be the better fit for the Yankees?
I probably want to say Wandy.
I like Wandy.
Yeah.
But it's also they're getting really close to that next luxury tax threshold.
Yeah.
The reason why that's important is because they lose draft picks if they hit it.
Yeah.
And I think Middleton's going to be a good value. And I can almost see like Cashman being like, okay, look, I traded for you. You pitched pretty well. Let me bring you back on 1-year deal, 1-year prove-it deal.
Right.
I think that's more likely than Wandy coming back.
Yeah.
Just because, like I said, they don't really need to pay relievers. And I think Wandy's definitely going to get more than that $6 million that Clay Holmes is getting.
Okay. That's fair.
So I definitely think that would be the guy. Obviously, I'm over the moon if they bring back Wandy.
Yeah.
But I think more realistically, they bring in a Kenny Middleton.
Yeah.
Because that's just what the Yankees do.
Right. And if you don't bring back Wandy, I don't know the Yankees bullpen like the back of my hand, but do you have any lefties in there?
Gonzalez. I think Victor Gonzalez. I think that's his name.
Yes, it was Victor.
It was
Victor.
Victor?
Yes. Now that you said it, yeah.
I'm trying to.
I forgot about that little trade.
Yeah.
I think it's just him, right?
It could just be him, but it's
Right.
also like the way their philosophy is. It's like
It doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Because you have a bunch of guys that have reverse splits.
Right.
So it's like
You basically have some lefties in there.
another thing, just like the way that their like sinkers move, way like that stuff. And I feel like baseball also is kind of moving away from that righty lefty.
It is.
So that's like another thing too. And
that's probably like the one old school thing I have where like I don't like two lefties back to back. You know, I want more than one lefty in the bullpen. I don't like too many lefties in the rotation. The handedness does mean something to me, at least. But I can fully understand why some teams are kind of moving away from that.
And just something I wanted to mention, Kenyon Middleton in, 14 and a third innings pitched last year for the Yankees, 1.8 ERA, and
Yeah. So
17 strikeouts to 7 walks.
Right. Yeah, would not blame the Yankees wanting to bring him back at all.
Yeah, and let me get out the depth chart for the Yankees just for their bullpen. Nick Ramirez, forgot about him, and Matt Crook. Okay. So they do have lefties.
Yeah.
I don't think I mentioned it, but they did sign Luke Weaver to a contract.
Yeah.
Great swingman. He's gonna be an innings eater. What you want?
Yeah, definitely.
So, and the more I look at this bullpen, I really they don't even obviously bring back Kenny Middleton. That'd be nice.
Right.
They don't even really need to.
Yeah.
Because you have Holmes, you have Loizaga, you have Canley, you have Hamilton. Scott Efros is coming back. You have Victor Gonzalez. You have Nick Ramirez and Matt Crook, who I think showed potential. More Nick Ramirez. You got Ron Marinaccio. And I don't know. And like we said, relievers coming out of nowhere. There could just be a guy that's doing hot at the deadline that they trade for.
Right.
So it's like...
Yeah. You take it for what it is. You don't necessarily need to go all in.
Yeah, you don't. It's just... Yeah. Like here, Nick Ramirez's numbers in 40 innings pitched, he had a 2... Is that a 6 or an 8? He had a 2.66 ERA.
Yeah.
So it's like...
Checks out.
Let me check his career really quick. It was, obviously, that was his best year.
Yeah.
But it's also a thing. Matt Blake pitching lab.
Yeah.
And then if I go to Baseball Savant, I'm curious what his like ground ball rate, stuff like this, because I did not expect to be talking this much about Nick Ramirez. Loading.
Beep, boop, boop, bap, boop, boop.
He had a 48.5 ground ball rate, which he wasn't qualified, but just eyeballing where it is, I think that would be about 75th, 80th percentile.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right. It's up there.
He's
that's
old.
what they like.
He's 34 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. What is that? A 50%. Is that 40? Is that 40 or 50? That's okay. I couldn't tell if it was like 49 or 40 or 40.
Mm-hmm.
40% sinker usage and 20% changeup.
Right.
Matt Blake.
Yeah, Matt Blake to a T.
Also, even sweeper. He loves his sweeper at 27%. But
sweeper's the new craze.
I don't know. I think that they don't really need to, you could give a guy, like, Hector Neris I really like just because he was a really good guy. Like, I was telling you this, I would have given him 214. That was kind of like my max just because he is such a solidified reliever. But, I don't know.
I don't think I would blame the Yankees if they don't sign anybody, honestly.
Yeah. I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
because the volatility of relievers, what you have right now.
Right. And if you're that worried about going over that next luxury tax threshold, then you stay put.
You're not going over it for Kenyon Middleton or Wandy Peralta. You're going over that for
Josh
Blake
Hader.
Snell. I'm just throwing a big name. Yeah. We should talk about him. Blake.
Mr. Blake.
So, I don't know how to feel about this. Because we've talked about this.
Yeah.
So the Yankees are the only team to offer him a contract. They offered him a 5-year, $150 million contract. Or was it 6 years?
I think it's 5.
I think it was 5, yeah. He declined it.
Yep.
No other team has offered him a contract.
Yeah, that's still to this day, because this was what?
Like a
2
week ago?
Yeah.
Like, that's part of the Bob Nightingale tweet with arbitration. That he
Right.
said that's when they did that. And I'm pretty sure. Let me get you when that date was of that tweet. Twitter. I want you to load. School Wi-Fi, be good for once. January 11th.
Right. It is
That's
now
almost 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2.5, 3 weeks ago.
Right. So that still holds true to this day. So that just goes to show what a lot of teams are thinking about Blake Snell.
Yeah.
And Scott Boras, you gotta do your homework and you gotta see that no one wants to give him 9 years.
$270 million.
Right.
That was his asking price.
Right. No one forget about the money. No one wants to give him 9 years.
I don't think anyone wants to give him 6.
Right. So I think it's moving towards that Correa contract.
Yeah.
The first Correa contract was it 3 years?
With
an opt out.
Giants or the Mets?
The Twins. The first Twins. So this is going back 2 years.
The one that he opted out and then went to the Giants and then the Mets and then.
Yes. The first contract he opted out of. Because when you say Correa's contract, you got to go through like 4 of them.
You gotta bring out an encyclopedia.
Right. But I believe that first Twins contract was around 3 years. I forget the money if an opt out after.
3/120 and opt out after every year.
Yeah. So I think that's where things are moving towards. I think Montgomery gets that long term deal. But I think Snell is going to have to get a shorter player opt out deal.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's fun to Cy Young and doing that. But did you see the Garrett Cole quote?
I don't think so.
It was pretty funny. It was I don't have it in front of me, but he was like, he thought it was funny that they sat him and Snell together at the thing.
Yeah.
So it's just obviously they both won Cy Young, so they're both in the awards, but like still.
Yeah, kind of funny. But not really sure where Blake Snell is going. Not really sure where the market's going. There's still top of the line guys out there.
Even hitters too.
Right, Bellinger,
like,
Chapman, if you want to call it. Like we talked with Queens, you got a lot of DHs out there. There's guys out there.
Dude, Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, Jordan Montgomery, and Blake Snell.
Yeah.
What do they all have in common? Scott Boras.
Listen, Scotty, you gotta read the market, read the teams a little bit better. You're holding things up, asshole.
It's gonna take a minute.
Yeah, definitely.
That's all I got overall for the Bronx. I thought I had a lot more.
Right.
But yeah,
kind of
still a lot
quick
of
hits.
Talking points. Yeah.
Definitely.
So.
But yeah, still a lot of guys free agency. There's 2 weeks until pitchers and catchers report, I think.
About that.
I think you're gonna see some guys go into spring training without a team.
Mm-hmm.
I think what you mentioned this a couple days ago, like the Manny Machado, Bryce Harper, like it might be a bit.
I think I remember. I think it was Machado. I was watching a Yankee spring training game when he signed with the Padres.
Right. So this might take a while.
Yeah.
But for the Mets and Yankees, I don't think it's really holding much up for them.
The Yankees did all their heavy lifting. People.
Right.
It almost sucks that they got Soto so long ago because people forget
They got
the emotions that they felt when they saw that Juan Soto was a Yankee.
Yeah.
People are forgetting how much of an impact bat Juan Soto is.
Yeah, definitely. And it's been a very weird and slow off season.
Yeah.
But that's baseball, Susan.
Yes. I see what you did there. John! Well, John.
But yeah.
I got nothing. It's on you. You do the outro.
Okay, fine. Be that way.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. As a reminder for our new radio show, WNHU 88.7.
Yes, it is a 7.
Yes. Fridays from 5 to 6 p.m. If you're in the Connecticut area, you can get it on the radio. If not, we will have a link to the website where you can listen to us in the description of our podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook.
Subscribe to us on YouTube.
Subscribe to us on YouTube.
Unless you're watching on YouTube. Well, then subscribe, but then also go to Spotify.
Yes.
And then hit everything else.
Yes. Rate us on Spotify. Let us know what you think. But yeah, that's all we got for you guys. So we'll be back when things happen.
Bye-bye.